Tonight, here's the lineup. We're going to first hear a few words from your council member, Rob Saka. Then Rob will be introducing Councilmember Tanya Wu, who is also representing our area as a citywide representative. And then we're going to hear from Steve Charlotte for a few minutes. Our speakers, I'm sorry I'm standing in front of you, but we want to thank you all for participating. You just jumped in, and we're going to allow you to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to get right into what we're all here for, and that is hear from the community. I know you want to focus on action, so we're going to get right into this. And the way we're going to do that is that we have gotten probably almost close to 500 questions that you all submitted within 24 hours. So I did my best to cull. Obviously couldn't capture them all, but did the best we could. And so there'll be some prepared questions that we pose to the various department leaders here. Probably about 20 minutes. Okay, we're going to try to do our best to keep it on time. And then the last 20 minutes or so will be a chance for you all, or just anyone in the audience, to ask questions or make comments. Okay, now, we're going to try to keep it to 7:30. I know some of you might have a hard stop. Feel free to leave. If we're still asking questions, we can go for it a little bit longer, if that's okay. All right? So with that, I think that was my intro. I'd like to now introduce Councilmember Rob Saka.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Rob Saka. We're already seeing a huge surge. I think Director Walton reported this, but 13, maybe I don't have the exact numbers, but under the data, we're seeing an average of 13 weekly applications for new officers. Before we approved that contract, we saw a weekly average of 5, so we're already seeing an uptick in interest in hiring. It's going to take a while, guys, but it is an important first step that we can and must take, and I'm proud to have supported that. Second, we've taken action to address unsafe vacant buildings. Last month in May, our council, and I'm proud to support it, we passed landmark legislation to give the fire chief more tools to address dangerous vacant buildings. Third thing we did, we helped streamline and simplify the SPD officer recruitment and hiring process. Last month, we passed a bill, a key bill, to do exactly that. And make our process, remove some of the red tape and the bureaucracy, and get unstuck from Seattle's process. So we did that to make sure our process matched more with some of our neighboring jurisdictions, who, by the way, were also competing fiercely for talent of officers. So little things like that, I'm confident and hopeful that we'll start to yield results. And then last week or the week before, sorry I get all ones together, but we passed some great legislation to combat and take stronger action against stolen cars. We expanded and automated license plate reader tooling, instead of tooling and technology. We know smash and grabs are deeply impacting our community, and stolen cars and so many follow-up and secondary crimes as a result of stolen cars. So we're giving our officers, our police, more tools with some important privacy safeguards to better help automate and track and take action on those things. So, and finally, look, I recognize that there's been an erosion of trust between elected leaders at the city level and our frontline rank and file officers over the past few years. And that's the facts. And that's why I've taken a lot of effort and time and attention to literally visit and show up and attend various roll calls at various precincts. It's not a legislative action, there's not a shiny piece of paper you can hang and say, oh, this is what we did. But you gotta build trust. Trust is one of those things that's really difficult to earn. It's easy to erode. And so I'm committed, and it's not just our police. I think a lot of our first responder heroes appreciate seeing some of the new collaboration. So in any event, on a going forward basis, I think there's a few key things that we can continue to do. One is the Duwamish space. I support a SDOT redesign of that area to either reconfigure that area to eliminate the parking or convert it to parallel only parking. Second, I've been very vocal about my strong support for speed cameras, speed enforcement cameras. I'm very appreciative about that, as I know you all are as well. And then next, I'm proud to announce that today there's a brand new set of very specific design solutions involving lane configuration and parking in that area that our experts at SDOT are ready to start building and implementing today. Well, not literally today, but you get my point. And so they will share details here shortly on what those are. And then finally, in the Public Safety Committee, I heard a couple people were taking some hands before this, like, take stronger action on speed racing. And I want you all to know we are. Yesterday, at our public safety hearing, City Attorney Davidson introduced and we discussed her proposed legislation to help us crack down on problem speed racing. And here's a heads up, I will have my own amendments to make that even better. To address some of the challenges that are not only impacting this community, but really felt citywide. So, that said, let me stop talking. Quit saying that I'm a normal human being, just like every last one of you all. Don't forget that. Anyways, I would like to let my council colleague introduce herself, say a few words. Welcome, Councilmember Wu.
Thank you. You have a phenomenal council member here who listens and who represents you well. And so very excited and so very honored to serve with Councilmember Saka to be here tonight. We have a new council and we all agree that public safety is our priority. And working together, making sure that we are supporting our officers, making sure they have the tools and the resources, such as license plate readers, where they can supplement now that we are not fully staffed yet. And so we are looking at all these things in collaboration and in unity and working towards a common goal. And so we all agree that we have to work together to get things done and to make our streets safer. And so I am here to listen, I'm here to learn, and to support in efforts to make our community safer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Steve Pumphrey, and I'm standing in a pool of Rob sweat. Rob, thanks.
Don't flip.
Thank you for convening this, and all of you here at this dais. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. For those of you that don't know me, I'm one of 3 founders of the Harbor Avenue Alki neighborhood group. The other 2 are Mike Gain and Deb Hendrickson. And today, that started about 2 years ago, and today we have over 160 members in that organization. We've had successes. We were instrumental, along with our partners at the city, in getting the terrible RV camera off of Harbor Avenue. We were able to clear out the Fairmont green space, which entailed hauling away about 8 tons of garbage from encampments. But we're not ready to stop. We need to move on. Unfortunately, the death of Luis Angel Saturday morning in front of my home, and yes, I'm the guy with the hole in the bullet hole in the window, is triggering this meeting more than anything else. And I feel very, very badly for his death. His family was out there the other day, and you could tell they were torn up. 22-year-old did not deserve to die. And we have to think about what's going on. And I think it's really the fact nothing happens in a vacuum. We have, we defunded police, we all know that. We have courts that somehow don't want to seem to deal with issues, especially dealing with young people who are on the beginning of going down the wrong path. And I think that we have to realize that people are coming from out of the area because we have a magnet here where they can come and party and race and drink and do drugs. And that has got to be somehow changed. Now, we can't legislate all that away, and we certainly can't make that go away by enforcement because we don't have the officers today to do that. But we can change the environment. And I think that's what our group is proposing now, is that we work on changing the environment. How do we do that? Well, we look at our structures, and Rob just mentioned something that was a surprise to me, and I'm happy to hear it, that SDOT is working on some changes to the streets. If we can re-engineer and redesign our streets, our parking spaces, and some of the other areas that attract these people that want to come here and cause mayhem, perhaps we can stop it. I don't think we'll ever stop it 100%, but if we make it harder for them to be here and do what they do, then we're going to win. So be patient, help us work with the city. We're really trying to make the thing work as partners. We can't stand around and just complain and do nothing. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Charlotte Stark, President of Alki Community Council, and thank you all for coming. We actually meet, we're a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer neighborhood group that's been around since the mid-1980s. I've just been president, it's an honor, since January, along with Lindsay Pearsall, who's our vice president and leaned in, if she can wave, I don't know where she's at, there she is. And so we've been super busy. One of the things that we've been really working on is uniting the community and keeping the priorities of crime and traffic front and center as well. And so our role in how we support the community, because believe me, I get asked to be the pit bull in everybody's fight, and that's not physically doable with the time that I have. And although I would love to help out, but what we work for are those commonalities, and the way we make progress is by bringing civic leaders together with the neighborhood group, and that's open to anyone, and we meet actually right here in the back foyer. And we had that goal of distributing and for city leaders to obtain first-rate information, so they hear it first from you, you get the face-to-face time with the leaders, and it's not filtered with any agenda. That is a huge gain. And I don't go for 100% consensus because we're not going to get there. If we're 80%, we all want to live in a safe place, in a more peaceful place, then it's a win-win for everyone. And there's nuances in between, but that's the end goal. So one of the reasons I got involved was kind of like Steve. Crime ended up on my front doorstep. It actually blew out 40 feet of the side of my property when a street racer missed the corner coming down 56. So, and that was the first time I was hit. The second, we didn't have a physical injury. When I say I, it's the property. We had a minor incident with another vehicle that crossed lanes and landed in our front yard. Our neighbor's been affected as well with the vehicle going through there, and we also have gunfire on our street down the center of Alki. So 338 caliber bullets. The West Seattle blog covered that incident into a kitchen window just for kicks, apparently, a random shooting, and then another one 6 houses down from us was a 22 caliber bullet. So the gunfire that we're talking about has been an ongoing, growing problem as we've seen the decline of our police force and just a lack of lawfulness. It's just lawlessness that we're all trying to get our arms around, and Chief, we're, no small task, right? So what we want to do, what we agree on is that what we've observed in Alki, probably not different than other neighborhoods, is that as crime lands on your front doorstep, quite literally, you get really upset. You get angry. There are people hurt, property lost, businesses leave. I know of a couple looking to leave Alki. I won't name them. but we need to get it under control. And we've seen different streets, street-by-street activation, which we as a neighborhood recognize we need to do a better job of bringing a unified voice, because then it's a siloed conversation where one person's talking to SDOT, another one's talking to police. It's not all aligned. And so this collective effort is really the biggest accomplishment, I think, in neighborhood safety for all of us. Rob, we can't thank you enough for bringing us together. We want to do our part, advocate for all of us together, because the plan has to be all of Alki as Seattle's #1 beach destination, where we have microlocal, local, state, national, and international tourism, as well as the people who live here. This cannot be a siloed conversation anymore, and the best outcome we can achieve, I think, is exactly what we've been talking about: environmental barriers, and also supporting police with more technology. So when you said cameras, it's like flock cameras are in 47 states, 5,000 cities. I've been researching it a lot, and I'm really hoping we can get that here too. So thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much. Now we're going to, let's just go ahead, as Councilmember Saka had said, we're just going to go ahead and have some introductions.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, yeah, all the key decision makers, well, I mean, many of them, from the city's perspective, are in this room. We work collaboratively together. We're not going to, as Steve noted, we're not going to legislate our way out of this. We're not going to enforce our way out of this. But there are some specific improvements and things, and that's one of the goals, to walk away with some specific actions. And so, but all the people, the key people, with respect to the underlying reason that we're in this room, are many of them are in this room. I speak regularly with the mayor, and unfortunately, in 5 days' notice or whatever, busy person, like we all are. But we are very closely aligned and committed to doing this work. So, to our distinguished guests and leaders from the city, if you wouldn't mind going down the line and just saying who you are and your role with the city. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Natalie Walton-Anderson, and I am the new Director of Public Safety for the Mayor's Office. I'm new to the Mayor's Office, but I'm not new to West Seattle or even this work. I live just a mile up the hill. I have 3 boys. I walk Alki almost every night. And I just want to thank Councilmember Saka for hosting and bringing this event together. And I also want to thank all of you for being here and carrying it. I'm sorry that it's many tragic accidents, even the incident that happened last night with one of our residents who was injured, has brought us together. I did speak with the mayor. He called me right before leaving for this event, and he is sorry he can't be here, but I feel very confident in saying the mayor cares deeply about gun safety. He recognizes the issues with Alki that we've had in the time I've been here for 18 years, always in the summer, and it continues to increase and feel brazen. So I'm going to pass it over. I think we are also incredibly lucky to have Chief Rar in this position for the time that she's here. I had the pleasure of watching her work when she was the King County Sheriff, as did many of us, and so I'm going to pass that over. I will say, because I live just up the hill, I'm happy to stay for questions beyond 7:30 if people want to talk. I would love to listen more about your concerns, because I want to be able to do my part in terms of this role. Thank you.
So thank you all for inviting all of us to be here. Before I start, I want to introduce the brain trust that I'm going to rely on, because I'm so new to this assignment. Officer Barreto, he took me on the Insider's Tour a couple of evenings ago, and we drove around, and his knowledge is deep and long, and he has some good ideas. Our new precinct commander, Captain Bear, she's new to this assignment, but she's not new to West Seattle, and she has a lot of experience as a leader. She knows how to lead cops, and so I'm very happy that you're here. And our community service officer, Denise Lopez, I'm very excited to let you know she is assigned to the Southwest Precinct. She's no longer responding out of headquarters. She's going to be embedded in this community along with a couple of other community service officers. You go ahead and get comfortable with that. I'm really just a figurehead right now, and I think it's important that you know the people who know your community inside inside out. I also want to start with saying I am sorry that you have to be here tonight for this type of situation. I would much rather see a community gathering to celebrate, and hopefully at some point in the future we will celebrate that we have been able to improve safety. I also want to bring a little bit of reality to the game of the time we're living in right now. The Surgeon General just came out to name gun violence as our #1 public safety crisis. And it's been a little bit shocking to me. I was a King County Sheriff from, I left the department in 2012. I was going to say since 79. I joined as a deputy in 79. I wasn't the sheriff for 33 years. But I also had 9 years at the police academy where I learned a lot about how we train our police officers and sheriff's deputies. And then I was just thoroughly enjoying retirement when Tim Burgess called me and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But I want to tell you, the 12 years that I have been out of law enforcement, a lot has changed. And I will tell you, it's shocking to me, the escalation in gun violence and the escalation in just general lawlessness and disregard for community mores. It's as if our social fabric is coming unraveled. And having a group like this together tonight is very heartening, because this tells me people are interested in getting that shored up again. And so I think the more that we pull together and work together, hopefully we can get on top of what's happening and try to reverse that trend working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, city partners, for being here. My name is A.P. Diaz. I'm the Superintendent of Seattle Parks and Recreation. I have the privilege of being our park superintendent. We have 500 parks in the city of Seattle, and I can probably guarantee most of you thoroughly love your parks. It's what makes our city unique and special and so attractive and such a wonderful place to call home. We too are struggling to best serve the needs of our entire system, because up until just a year ago, when I first came here on the job a year ago, we only had 2 park rangers for 500 parks. 2 park rangers. It's ridiculous, and thankfully you all voted into our parks levy the authority to increase that to 28 park rangers. And we just did that, and we, within record time, filled all of those spots, because that's how important it is to do it, and that's how much people love to give in service with our other public safety partners here. But the park rangers were only limited to working downtown, and that's why the metric of 28 was established. We worked really hard to say we need to remove that barrier so that our park rangers can actually work citywide and serve all of the residents, including in West Seattle. And we finally got that barrier restricted. So now we have 28 park rangers for the entire city of Seattle, and again, for 500 parks. So it's not enough, we need to do more. The opportunity will come, again, where you can support various projects in our cycle. We're hoping that you'll be supportive of this ask. I know the mayor wants to grow our park ranger program. I know our police partners, and I know residents would love to see more park rangers. And so we're beginning now to begin to do the citywide distribution plan and work really closely, more closely with the police department and other city partners on this issue as it's emerging, because we want to be able to take care of our parks. The wonderful thing about our parks is that they are gathering spaces, and they're backyards, and they're family spaces, and we all have fun in them. But because they're open, they attract sometimes not the best element, and we need to be able to respond to that. And so right now, we're doing the best that we can with limited resources, but we can also do other things, and I think some of the things we're going to talk about tonight are adjusting hours of operations when needed, doing closures when needed, doing environmental changes, and looking at other alternatives to combating these issues. So we hear you loud and clear. We've got great partners at this table. We are also community members and residents, and also have our frustrations with our entire city, so know that we have a vested interest to come up with better solutions. And so today is just a start to hear some of the things that are going on here in Seattle, and we look forward to talking to you about it more.
condolences for the tragedies that you're experiencing in your neighborhood, and your gratitude. And gratitude for you for being here tonight to be part of a solution, to be part of a dialogue. And I'm really quite eager to hear from you and hear what you're experiencing to better understand. Unfortunately, Councilmember Saka stole a lot of our thunder from SDOT in that we have been looking at some ways that we can partner in ways that address some of the design that complement the very important and hard work that our colleagues in public safety do every day to help curb some of the unwanted, uncivil behaviors, antisocial behaviors. And I just want to share a personal note. I don't live in West Seattle, but I do live in a community in Seattle that experiences drifting every night. I hear it on Friday nights out of my bedroom window, so I understand the feeling that it is to feel like people are taking advantage of the space that is ours as a community and using it in ways that it's not designed for and it's not intended for, and frankly is dangerous for all of us. So I really do appreciate you being here and being part of this. Vanu, my esteemed colleague, can speak a little bit about some of the things that we have been thinking about at SDOT that can complement and extend some of the improvements we've been making over the past couple of years. You've seen the speed cushions that have gone in already. They have yielded reductions in speed, and you've seen some of the things we put in the center delineators to also limit the ways that people can abuse space, because it is about abuse of space, in addition to sort of just choosing to do things that we aren't inviting into the community. We can talk more about this in Q&A, but I'm also very interested to hear about what you're experiencing and get more of a flavor, and I just want to say thank you for being here tonight.
I'm the City Traffic Engineer with the Seattle Department of Transportation. I'm glad to be here and be part of this conversation. I truly am looking forward to collaborate on the various concerns that you are sharing here today and have shared with us. So I look forward to collaborating with you. I'll hold my comments on specific actions for just a little bit later in the program and go into some of the details about what we are looking at, what we are proposing a little bit later in the program. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And actually, as I said, we had culled the best that we could, some of the top questions that we heard that you sent us this last day. So this is really going to be for you now. So I'm going to read 3 questions, and we're right on time. I'm going to end it at 7 so that there's time for you all to ask your questions. So the questions to Department of Transportation, there's 3 speed cameras. Councilmember Saka spoke about the speed camera legislation. What's the latest accurate, updated information about speed cameras? Because there have been varying stories that have been floating around. That's the first question. Speed bumps, speed cushions. What are your plans, including the area north of the water taxi? Or actually, no, south. Sorry, south. And in general, monitoring speeding. Do we have to wait until past summer for action? The third question is permit parking around Alki. It's so congested that police cars and first responders cannot get through and eliminate, can you eliminate traffic altogether on 56th to 61st Avenue Southwest? Those are the 3 questions.
Thank you so much, Elaine. Thanks for your questions. So let me take them one by one. So let me first talk about speed safety cameras, right? It's, as you all know, last year our council passed an ordinance that designated several racing zones across the city, and that included both Alki Avenue and Harbor Avenue, and identified kind of like those zones as potential locations where we could install what they called at the time was racing zone cameras, which was how the legislation, the state legislation, used to call it. But effectively, what those cameras are there for is to address the speed enforcement. Right? Now, the funding for installing any of those speed cameras has not been identified or have been adopted in the budget for this year after that ordinance was passed. So, and since then, the state law itself has changed. There's a new law that came into effect this June on safety cameras. And what it did was it basically continued that ability to install speed safety cameras on segments that are identified as high crash risk, where there's speeding concerns, and to do that with identifying both the safety need, but also looking at the equity implications and the inclusive community input. So the new state law now requires us to do a lot more documentation in terms of justifying new locations, but unfortunately in the adopted budget for 2024, we have not, funding has not been identified for speed safety cameras. But that said, we don't have to, while we are at the SDOT are having a lot of conversations because the new state law has implications on how our Seattle municipal code needs to be changed and updated to accommodate the new state law. And we are having really robust conversations internally on how we can develop a comprehensive, holistic policy on how we can identify and install various safety cameras that are authorized by the state law, including speed safety cameras, and deploy them where we identify specific safety needs and where we can balance the various equity considerations and take into account the inclusive community input as we move forward. So right now we are working towards developing that policy that we hope to complete later this fall and take a more systemic and approach to looking at installing, pursuing speed safety cameras or other types of cameras across the city. Now, with that said, I'll kind of transition to question number 2, is that we don't have to, while this conversation is happening, we can take some interim steps to help address some of your speeding concerns that you're seeing right here, right? As you all know, back in 2022, fall of 2022, we did install several speed cushions on Harbor Avenue approaching the water taxi line, right? And in preparation for today's meeting, I was kind of looking at how effective have they been? And what our data tells us, looking at the speeds that we had back then in 2022 and now here in 2024, is that those speed cushions that we have installed have been very effective in bringing down not only the average speeds that we are seeing on that section, but also some of the maximum speeds that we are seeing, right? So we can continue to pursue in the interim that solution, basically to install more speed cushions between the water taxi landing and further coming all the way down to the Alki Beach proper, and also the locations south of Fairmont, basically, right, approaching that section. So we can. Thank you so much. So we are already kind of like working. Our staff is working on identifying specific locations, trying to get their designs right, and they're already working on that. So that is one thing that I bring to you. The second thing is that one thing that as we are having these conversations, what we have realized is that the lane widths between on both Harbor Avenue all the way coming down on Alki Avenue, coming down to 63rd, are more than what they need to be, right? The lane widths are anywhere from 13 to 15 feet, and in some locations they are as big as 20 feet. Now we all know that when you have a wider lane, that basically encourages more speeding and higher operating speeds. So one thing that we are proposing is to reduce that lane width to somewhere between 10 and 11 feet, right, across that entire segment on both Alki Avenue and Harbor Avenue from 63rd going all the way down to Fairmont. And we are looking at how we can restripe the lanes and make it narrower so that the road and these two roads and streets, right, can naturally look narrower and naturally elicit a more lesser operating speed and a more calmer traffic behavior across these two segments. So those are two immediate things that we can do right away, and we are planning to Definitely this summer, right? But with a little bit more due diligence, we can give a better timeline for when we can install them, because we are trying to figure out the logistics of how to kind of like move various elements, kind of like various teams within STAR to make this happen. So we're aiming for to complete those two, installing the new speed cushions and restriping both Alki and Harbor Avenue to narrow the neighborhoods to promote slower speeds and calm traffic in general, right? So those are two engineering improvements that we are
The
looking at.
third question, if you can kind of wrap that up.
Yeah, the third question is related to parking, and also kind of like that specific question was between how can we, what if we restrict traffic between, we say 56 and 60 plus, right? So that needs to be a little bit more larger conversation, because when you restrict traffic on a major artery like that, you need to be cognizant or be aware of, or fully aware of what the secondary impacts of that is going to be, where the traffic is going to go. We want to have an unintended consequence of shifting the traffic through the neighborhood streets. So we need to take a little bit more time to explore that idea and do our due diligence before pursuing that. But that I would kind of like put it out to probably looking at it more thoroughly with the community. And the various parking that was identified, we are also looking at to see how we can engage with you and see how and what we can do to better manage our parking on both the Alki and Harbor. So with that, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, so thank you, Bandy. So those are some specific actions City is taking on your behalf to address those concerns. I do want to quickly clarify something, because there seems to be a little like telephone game, and which I totally understand. There's a lot of stakeholders involved, and because I spoke directly with the mayor most recently about this specific issue yesterday, he made crystal clear funding is not an issue, folks. Funding is not an issue. Instead, it is some administrative overhead challenges associated with operationalizing and deploying these cameras as a result of the new state law and other things. Again, non-trivial challenges associated with operationalizing studies and planning. It takes a while, unfortunately. So funding is not an issue. For crystal clarity. And even if it was an issue, folks, my highest priority is public safety. I will make sure, even if it were an issue, we will find funding in the budget if needed, but that is not the blocker. But regardless, there is clear partnership and alignment. We need those, and we're committed to deploying them on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Great partnership.
Okay, we have another set of questions that came through to us. This is for the police department or also the mayor's office. The first one is a tough one. How can SPD do better on holding accountable perpetrators of gun violence? That's the first question. It's too long. Okay, but they're related. Okay. What about parking enforcement officers? They need to be around at night. What about emphasis patrols? What are your plans? Knowing that there's a police shortage felt throughout the city immediately, what are more aggressive measures that can be done, like adding, like we said, the emphasis patrols, adding police checkpoints in and out of the area? That seems a little drastic, but that was a number of people raised that. Can there be some checkpoints in and out of the area just in the summer months, like scanning license plates, whatever? We just need more presence in this area, particularly in the summer, because it's a deterrent.
Alrighty, I'll try and, I might not get those in the exact order. I'll start with the one that's probably most achievable, and that is parking enforcement. One of the things that stood out to me when I took my little tour a couple of days ago is just the blatant disregard for parking laws. Loretta was taking me around and we see all these cars parked in the parking lot that's designated for boat trailers, and it was full of cars, and there's signs everywhere, and I thought, holy cow, clearly this is a habit that has formed in this community that needs to be broken. And I know why that happens. I don't have to repeat 100 times to you that we're short-staffed. But it's clear that the atmosphere of rules don't matter seems to have taken hold. And so what we're going to try to do within the Seattle Police Department, we've got several really severe hotspots in the city. And I've elevated Alki, the beach area, to our fifth hotspot to get some immediate focus there. So I've talked with our parking enforcement team. We're putting together a team of parking enforcement officers to focus on that parking lot both in the afternoon and evening, and then we're figuring out how to put a night shift together so that we can target the 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So that's the aspiration, and now I'm going to tell you the truth. We put up sign-ups for officers to work overtime because we're going to all of these emphasis activities have to be done on overtime because, as you all know, we're short about 400 officers right now, and so to do any kind of emphasis, we have to do it on overtime. This weekend coming up, we have a major Pride event. We have several citywide events. And so I've got to figure out whether I have to force officers to work overtime to come and provide security for our traffic enforcement officers. I'm not going to send the traffic enforcement officers who are unarmed to come in late at night to try and deal with this, but we will get them out here during the afternoon, and I really do believe if we start to shift the atmosphere and the climate that rules matter and we will enforce the rules, I think that will help a lot. We'll get that started. I know over the course of my career when people complain about speeding, back in the day when we had enough cops and we would put speed traps out, often the people who complained got stopped for speeding. I don't think that's going to be the case here because I don't think anybody in this room probably parks in that trailer parking lot, so I'm not too worried about that. So I will commit to you for the next several weeks at least, we're going to get as many traffic enforcement officers out there as I can. As with the park rangers, I have a limited force and we have a lot of needs in the city, but I think I can get this going, I hope this weekend, on the traffic enforcement. In terms of holding perpetrators of gun violence accountable, boy oh boy. Again, I need to invoke some honesty here. We live in a gun culture, folks, and we have our society, our culture celebrates guns. And we've got a lot of young people who are still reeling from the pandemic. Our social fabric has frayed, and you put that together with guns everywhere, and the police department is not going to turn that around. We will do everything we can, but I want to be honest with you, it is out of control. We had one shooting scene this past weekend, 164 spent casings on the ground. That is the result of rampant gun culture. So we have a lot of work to do to shift that, because when there's that many guns out in the community, that many volatile kids who, for any variety of reasons, are angry and acting out, bad things are going to happen. Now, the question about holding the perpetrators accountable, we're going to do everything we can to identify and arrest perpetrators. I had a real dose of reality after the student was shot at Garfield High School. I thought, oh my God, this is a horrible thing. We have all these witnesses. Surely we will be able to bring the perpetrator to justice right away. And then I was hit with a dose of reality. Number one, I was not aware, because I've been out of the business for a couple of years, that our officers are not allowed to go out and confront juveniles and detain them to take a statement. And so we have not been able to obtain statements from many of the eyewitnesses in that situation. Then we have to get a series of search warrants to get the phone records to identify where people are. I know I'm on the verge of sounding like I'm whining, but I want you to understand there's a lot of barriers that are new into our criminal justice system when it comes to bringing perpetrators to justice. I'm going to be working with the prosecutor's office to clarify how far we can go in terms of reaching out and talking to juveniles and at least interviewing them as witnesses. But that is a big problem because, as you probably know, a lot of this gun violence is perpetrated by juveniles. And so on the one hand, the law I know was well-intentioned to protect juveniles, but what's happened is juveniles are now more at risk because the likelihood of perpetrators being arrested is much lower because we don't have the tools we need to do that. When we are putting everything we can on the table to get these folks under arrest, but it was, this past weekend, it was a wild weekend. We had 7 different shooting scenes, and I lost track of the total number of casings, but it is a huge challenge. In terms of holding them accountable, that's up to the courts and our legislature, and I encourage all of you to stay very active and aware of what laws are being passed. And you know, I think we've watched the pendulum swing in this state, and I think people are starting to recognize that maybe there needs to be a little bit of an adjustment. There for sure was a need to make some of the police reform measures. I supported a lot of the police reform measures, but some of them have had unintended consequences. And I think this is a wake-up call for us this summer to say, did we get it right or do we need to make some adjustments? My third question, the more aggressive measures, putting in traffic checkpoints. I don't know that that is legal. I don't know what the constitutional law is. I'm going to have to sit down with my legal advisors because I honestly, as I stand before you, I don't know what the restrictions are on putting checkpoints in. I would be surprised if that was something we would be able to do. But we can certainly do everything we can to make this a less inviting environment for kids to come and gather and drink and shoot off their firearms. I think if we shift the climate of the lawlessness and we start enforcing laws, we get those parking lots emptied out by 11 o'clock. We're going to work with our park partners and get those gates locked at either end of that big parking lot. We're going to take every step we can to make it a less attractive place for kids to gather and get into trouble and hurt one another.
And we're here because this is the second homicide in my district. But the very first homicide happened to one of our neighbors, just south in West Seattle, just south in High Point. 15-year-old Mubarak Kadam was killed. And that law, I think, was a barrier to giving his family and our broader community answers that they so desperately deserve and need. And I've sat in the most difficult thing that I've had to do. Anyways, there's an opportunity there at the state level. I've done an analysis. The state law was modeled after a Seattle City ordinance and a King County ordinance. Great intent. And so that was passed at the state level. Instead of using the city ordinance as a base, they actually went above and beyond, you know, the big, bold, progressive Seattle ordinance, and they made it even more stringent. We had a reasonable interpretation of implementation of that, you know, when our frontline officers were investigating. But I think the solution is a legislative one at the state level, and I'm committed to advocating strongly for that on behalf of Mubarak Kadam's family. And shout out to Margaritu is somewhere here. I see you. And we need to do better. But in any event, that is a very important piece of life. Like, it's not just going to be the city. It's not just going to be the county or Seattle Public Schools. It's going to take all of us. In that case, I'm going to be advocating next legislative session to add some clarification language to make sure we can actually talk to people and investigate. Thank you.
I know we're running on time. We're trying to run on time. I just want to say a couple of things about the questions that were just passed. You know, one of the questions was, how can SPD hold individuals who are involved in gun violence responsible and accountable. And it's not just SPD's role, it's the court's role, it's the King County prosecutor's role, it's the city attorney's role, it's all of our role to do so. And so I just want to urge everybody, when we're talking about this legislation, the information on who sponsors those bills, who's supportive of those bills, we have to continue to pay attention. We have people's attention right now because gun violence is so scary. But these bills come up, they're available for public comment, and we have to pay attention because the impacts are huge. The inability to pursue law is one that's been really problematic. I know because I was a prosecutor for 18 years. This juvenile bill is incredibly problematic in order to get information, and I want to recognize that the intent was to protect, but I just want people to understand our legislators in Olympia represent us, and we need to pay attention to that. Just like we need to pay attention to who is elected for prosecutor, who is elected for judges. There is information on those judges as well, and I just want to encourage people to keep paying attention to that. The last thing is it's difficult. Thank you. It's difficult for me to continue to hear how we are moving officers from place to place when we have a shortly staffed police department. And this is something else, I will say, this is going to take all of us. I am asking all of you to recruit. I brought cards tonight. I try and hand out at least 3 a day. We had an individual who was, I think, 62 that just passed the academy. Public service is a thankless but amazing job. And this is my 28th year in public service. And I dream about it, I think about it, but I am encouraging all of you. Do you know a young person, security? Maybe you are retired and want to have a second or third career. But SPD is hiring, and we cannot get through this shortage of officers and other civilian supports for our officers unless we start recruiting and asking people to serve in this capacity, and that could even be you. So I will leave these cards, but we have to help. All of us have to help in terms of the recruiting so that we can see those improvements for our officers that are so burned out and are going from place to place to try and be proactive on those things, but there's a shortage. So I'm asking people, I bring cards everywhere, but please think about that and think about who you can recruit as well.
I really appreciate that because recruiting is huge. And something that's key to our recruiting right now, our message is we have a different city council in 2024 than we did in 2020. One of the things that I am obligated to do during my 6-month service here as the interim is to try and help recruit a new chief. And one of the top things that I will be talking about is that we have a shift in Seattle City government. And I have met with each and every council member since I've come on board, and each one to a person has said, what can I do to help? Public safety is important to me. That's what I lead with when I'm recruiting people, because that was one of the messages that made it difficult. So I really want to thank our council members for what you've done. In the mayor's office, the mayor has also been amazing. He told me, you come in and I'll let you run the department, and he has kept his word. And I've done some stuff that he's let me do.
One subject all night. Our last section and topic is with parks. And Superintendent Diaz, you're free to introduce your awesome team. But let me go through the questions and then feel free to introduce them. Can the gates at Don Armani Boat Launch be changed as it has become a parking lot and ongoing car shows are burning their tires and playing loud music all the time? Second, can you shut down Hamilton View Park after 9 p.m.? There's car games, congregate, they chase each other down California, and then they race along Harbor Avenue. And the third that we heard was restricting Alki access. I think there was some comments already about that, but that has come up consistently as well. So those are the questions. Is there a way that can be done?
So the short answer is yes on all of them. This is a problem that's happening at Magnuson and Golden Gardens and on Lake Washington, at Stan Sayers and at Alki. These are the hot spots that we know. The weather gets nice, people want to go down to the lake and they want to be at the park system. And then unfortunately bad things are happening. So the great news is that the city charter has general prescribed rules of hours of operations for parks. However, I am empowered to adjust those hours as needed to deal with health and safety or public safety. So, for instance, we just implemented, not directly related to this, but because sometimes issues happen with beach fires going too late, we've actually pulled back the hours at Alki for the summer period, and then we'll extend them again in the fall. But we can also do that to help abate the street racing and the criminal conduct and the drinking and the late night activity that is going on. And so I will be working with the chief and her team. My team is here as well. Our head of our park ranger and emergency management unit, John Ienga, is here. Our Deputy Superintendent Daisy Katagi is here, and our Director of Facilities and our Director of Parks and Environment, Carson and Markeith are here. They can also talk to you after this. I would be remiss because the chief and the mayor's office and the underlying conversation we're talking about also is gun violence, which is really prevalent and an urgent issue here in Seattle. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention to you, because I think, as the chief was saying, you need to be aware, as the mayor's office was saying, you need to be aware. Do you know that we've had a shooting, right, at Southwest Teen Life Center, and we've had 3 shootings near Garfield High School, and a shooting in the Garfield Teen Life Center? Do you know it is not illegal to bring a firearm into a Teen Life Center or a park site? It's illegal to bring a gun into a school, as it should be, to a hospital, to the airport, to city council. And this last year, in this last legislation, the state legislature applauded with fanfare, and the city did, as they should, that the legislature passed. Now it's illicit to bring a firearm into the aquarium, the zoo, and libraries. But parks was in that bill, and community centers was in that bill, and it was pulled. So, state, and right, and the city of Seattle tried to reverse that years ago and implemented, but it's at the state level because state law preempts certain things. That's just the way the law works. So I want you to be aware of that, because the mayor is committed to keep being bullish on this issue. And when you go to Garfield High School or the Southwest Teen Life Center or any Teen Life Center, the public doesn't know the difference. You go into a school, but you go across the parking lot, but you then can go into different jurisdictions of a Teen Life Center. And so our employees too are fearful. They want to bring a gun to work, some of them, and we tell them you can't, right? But it's okay for the public to bring a gun into it. Of course, it's illegal to use a firearm in an unlawful manner anywhere. So, but just, we don't even have that ability. So I want to raise that awareness because it pains us at the park system. But I know that with your help and the community partners that we have, the council, the mayor, and people that are committed to public safety, that hopefully we can continue to advocate for that. That would help the park system a lot. So just playing that out there for you so that you're aware and you can do what Seattle voters do best. And we will work on the hour adjustments, as much of extra enforcement that we can do, and then working with our police department. The good news is that also under our charter, while park rangers do not have the authority to enforce laws across the city, the Seattle Police Department has the authority, and we work very closely with them. And if we ask them to be in our parks, and when they're there to help us with our hours and other park things, and they're there, they will do that. So that's the good news, is that we have that partnership. So thank you.
Thank you, speakers. All right, so we're going to go all the way to 7:30, which is a little less time than we thought, but this is your chance to ask questions. If you can keep them short, as short as you can, and then our answers can be short as possible, just to get as many people that we can voices heard. So Layla will cover this side, and we'll start with you.
Okay, I don't need a mic. So, first of all, thank you for your presentation. I'm really proud to be Charlotte's neighbor here. I had to show up this time. So, the question I have to ask is vis-a-vis traffic. I heard you mention Harbor and Alki, but nothing about 56 nor 55th, and which we live right off 56. As you come down Lander, and cars are steady zooming by our homes, right? So, are there going to be traffic cushions in those locations?
Yeah, so, thank you. Nice to see you again, by the way. Hi. Yep. I met on site in the impacted area directly with Charlotte. Remind me your name?
Chris.
Hey, Chris. On site directly with Venu and our experts at SDOT about a month, 2 months ago, I guess now. So, great prime opportunity for an update. SDOT. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, Charlotte. I was going to meet you after the meeting, but our intention is to, along with all the street cushions on Alki and Harbor, I want to do the same thing on 56, put it all in one project. So, thank you.
Thank you all very much for being here. It's really important. I would like to see that the district office, councilman, could provide information for each of us to contact our legislators and give that contact information. And each one of us, I challenge you, because I used to work at congressional level, and the squeaky wheel does give grease, and they need to hear from you about how you feel, not just in this context, but statewide. Because all politics is local, I know that, but all of us have to be advocates for public safety. Because I don't want you to have to go through something like this again. I lost 2 people in my life to gun violence, and they were very young. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you for the question. I would be happy to share out the information in a directory of how you can specifically contact legislators, and we'll share out the names of our 3 right here in the 34th legislative district. And it is important to make your voices heard, and because these laws at the state level impact what we can do, and in some cases what we cannot do in Seattle. So again, it takes all of us working together. And don't worry about me and my feelings. I don't want to see the family. I don't want to see another Mubarak Adam. And I don't want to see another gentleman, I wish I knew his name, a 22-year-old who lost his life on Saturday morning. And those are the families that I know you care about, and I care about, we all care about. And so, anyways, yes, we can share that out. And please do follow up, everyone.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, you. Sorry to point, but.
My name is Alki, and my window was the one that was with the bigger hole. And I was all night waiting for them to leave. I went to have a cup of tea, and they're gonna leave. My wall, my kitchen was hit. The bullet went into the ceiling to the kitchen wall, from the kitchen wall to my bedroom door. I stepped on the shower. Not knowing that was part of that, I thought it was part of the vacuum cleaner. Because I heard boom, 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 boom. I thought our fireworks, the 4th of July is so close. I thought our fireworks. But I don't go to sleep until these people leave, which means the police come. And I'm very happy when they come. My father was a policeman. But until the police is respected, nothing is going to change. And I tell you that very seriously. Nothing is going to change until parents control their children. Many things have to change. I live here for 55 years. I live in this condominium for 20 years. And this is just, I'm shaking, I was shaking. The police comes, 2 hours later, everybody's back. What is Elida doing? Standing looking through the window, waiting for them to leave. That's not life. That's not life. And now we are in charge of taking care of what happened in my place. I am an older lady, even if I don't look at 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I don't want to live the rest of my life
Valverde Wildcat, $85,000, and he's still out. How come he's still out? Why can't you arrest him, take his car, at least take his car off the street? Nothing. Belltown.
Who drives that Hellcat? Yeah.
We've been working on it. You may know the legal tangle. It's a legal issue.
So quickly, look, the Hellcat guy, that dude is totally out of hand. And we at the council, like I mentioned at the outset, we are considering some strong legislation right now to address and better shut down people who come to our community and want to do it harm. We welcome them. We want to make sure this is a welcoming community for all, but we also need people to respect this community as well. And you're right, ma'am. I'm so sorry, by the way. I can only imagine having same thing happen to some of my neighbors in Delridge, but I can only imagine, your own home. You must live on the second floor because Steve lived on the third floor, and I know it, so I saw. But you're right. There's only so much government can do, and I am a firm believer in the power of what local government can do, which is why I decided to serve, and I'm honored to do that. But you're right, ma'am. There's only so much that we can do. Communities need to step up. We're not going to legislate our way out of this. We're not going to, enforce our way out of this. We need communities to step up as well. But the Hellcat guy. I don't know if it's the mayor's office or
City attorney,
yeah.
It's with the city attorney. I was previously with the city attorney's office. I don't work there currently, and I don't have the latest status update of the case. I think that is something that we can follow up with. I do know that he's been civilly infracted. I don't know what's going on with the criminal case. That is something that I'm happy to follow up with Councilmember Saka, and we can answer that directly.
So just a quick question. It seems that most of these crimes are committed by really young people. Is it too outlandish to have a curfew for major
Curfew for young kids. There may or may not be some state law implications of that, rather. But to the extent that's possible, from a local ordinance and implementation perspective, but I'm not aware. I'm not aware offhand. I don't know if SPD.
I would love that. I can't get people who are booked for misdemeanor crimes booked into the jail. We have no capacity to take juveniles into custody unless they have committed a violent crime. So the problem, I think we go back to families, community ties, and that sort of thing. The government is no longer equipped to deal with juveniles committing minor infractions. I wish there were a way to manage it better, but at the end of the day, it goes back to the fabric of the community, the fabric of the family, and we're in a bad place right now. But if we had a curfew, there would be no place for me to take the kids.
I just wanted to have you guys address the cameras. We met with the city council last June, and 8 of the Alki community people went down and addressed and gave testimony to the council. They approved it. Equity and inclusion was one of the topics, and we talked about the good solution that those cameras will bring. The officers don't have to be involved. They don't have to give chase. As far as equity and inclusion, the cameras are colorblind. They don't care how much money you came from, or how much money you have, where you came from, your race, color, creed, none of that matters. But the excuses that we've heard from the city, is that the funding wasn't there. And now it was approved in June of 2023. They were expecting to have them installed by the end of the year. And so what I can't stand about these situations is everybody points the finger. That's what's so nice of having all of you together. That's how we got rid of the RVs. We collectively worked with the city council, SDOT, everybody involved, SPD, blah, 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 the city council, got it done. And that, with the cameras, has to be done. If we don't have time to wait, and I sent an email a couple of weeks ago to all of you, and just asked, what do we have to do? Wait for someone to die? And it just happened. Let's get it done.
Quick question, and I'll just reemphasize, you're absolutely right. I strongly support, and I like Deputy Mayor Emery, I probably sound like a squeaky record to her or a broken record to her, saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Again, for the avoidance of doubt, I strongly support implementation of speed cameras and potentially exploring CCTV type cameras. And I'm committed to making sure it's not a funding issue. I know, based on my conversation with the mayor yesterday. But we do have the experts right here. So SDOT, how can we best deliver this more efficiently?
Thank you so much. And to deliver this kind of thing needs to be a true partnership between all our stakeholders, right? Thank you so much for your advocacy, continuing to advocate for speed safety cameras, right? Absolutely, right? It takes us a partnership between our mayor and the city council, basically funding the idea. It takes kind of like partnership between SDOT, SPD, and our Unicode system, because we all have costs that are associated with maintaining and operating these cameras. We have, SPD has costs and resources to review these violations and issue citations. We have costs associated with engineering them, constructing them, making sure that they are operational, and then the Unicode system too has ongoing costs, right? So we need kind of like resources from all, between various different agencies. We need that effort to be funded so that we can take the authorizations that are already available in the state law and operationalize them and install them in locations where there is a safety need, there's an with inclusive community.
They can pay for themselves though.
Yeah, exactly. There is revenues that come in, right? And the state law is very specific about any net revenues that come from the speed safety cameras to reinvest in the community in various safety projects. Yes, there's a definite benefit.